Um, so are you ready to kind of get a like an overview of FEP? Setting up the scale, importing projects, with adding material to the database and project add-on, material add-ons and stuff like that. I guess I'll just kind of start from what I normally do. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm just going to go ahead. Okay. So what you can do with the program is, of course, you're familiar with CAD and all that, and JPEG. It'll import all that. But it will also import like a whole roll of plans. Like let's say we have a project that we're working on, and it's the entire set of plans. So let's say these architectural, it'll actually bring in every sheet that set of plans has, and we don't actually have to import all of them. We can just click on the ones that we want. All these are going to be check marked here, and you can actually set up the scale from here. So if it's like 1/8 inch scale, you can just click 1/8 inch and then import. And that will, again, all the ones that are check marked will be the ones that will be imported into the program. Or you can uncheck all of them and then just click on the ones that you want after they've already been all imported. So that's basically what happens on a whole sheet. You can import all of them or just click on the ones that you want to import. However, I'm not going to do that right now. But that's one way to import a PDF. Anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and import this one. Here's a project that I'll just go ahead and import. So let's say it is 1/8 inch. I can just come down here to plan scale and click on the scale that I want to import it to. And it's always going to ask you to set it up to double check your scale. A lot of times a plan like this won't have a size, so you're probably going to have to go to another drawing that you have in your plans and kind of just get a dimension somewhere. Or if you know that the doorways are 3 feet, we can just kind of double check it from our ruler here. And we know right now that it's not to scale. It obviously was an 1/8 inch. I also know that these are usually 2 feet, and I can check that as well. But there's different ways you can find out the scale. Usually if your drawing doesn't have a scale on it, you can just go to another plan in the set of blueprints to find that. But I'm going to go ahead and just do a 3-foot doorway. I know that one is 3 feet, so I'm just going to hit set up takeoff scale, go to pick up 2 points, and I'm going to set the scale up from here. I'm just going to hit 3 feet. So now I can double check it. It should be 3 feet. Yeah, it's 3 feet. So that's how you pretty much set up the scale. You can also reset the scale. Like let's say that it's not accurate, just right-click, go to Set Up Takeoff Scale, and then redo it. Or if you somehow find out that blueprint is scanned to 1/4 inch or whatever, you can just redo it from here. So after you do all that, you can play around with it here. You can also move the image as well, unlock. And you can arbitrarily move it by typing in the number, the degree that you want to move it by if it comes in a little crooked. Sometimes they're scanned in crooked, and you can move it, clockwise, counterclockwise, or you can just move it 90 degrees or 90 degrees counterclockwise and clockwise. You can lock the plan after, but you always want to make sure that you unlock it to do that. So all you do is just right-click, and let's say you wanted to move it 90 degrees, just click on that and then hit Lock Plan. But in order to do that, you have to unlock it. So that's bringing an image in. The next step, I guess, how to do some of the drawings by the few different ways that we can do this. One is by just entering the room dimension. Let's say that we go out and do a measure, or that your client is doing nothing but residential. So he's not going to be using an image. He's going to go out and do a measure and bring it back to the office. So he's going to probably just enter in room sizes if they're just square rooms. So he can use this feature here, and he can rename the name of the room, and then you can just set it anywhere, and just continue on, just typing in the size, 11 feet 5 inches by 20 feet, and so on. So that's that feature right there. It's called Insert Room by Dimension, and that's one way to do it. The other is drawing by a rectangle. So, of course, you can just draw a bunch of rectangular shaped rooms. The other is the free draw, which is the one that they're going to be using most of the time. And this one they can just, follow their dimensions on their drawing. But we can also use these two on our images as well. So let's say, for example, we're doing this project here. I can use this tool, this rectangular tool, on these square rooms. I can just go from corner to corner on these square ones. So quickly just dropping these in, any square room, which is pretty nice and fast. Same with over here. But if they can't use it for the square rooms, they can also just use this free draw tool, and that's this one here. And there's several different ways of using this. We can lock it so that we can draw straight walls and angled walls, or we can unlock it so that we can just move it any direction we want. But most of the time, you're only going to use that if the plan is at a 45-degree angle. So I would make sure that they always have this on, unless, because it's going to help them draw straight lines and 90-degree lines. So that's kind of free draw, and basically just clicking on the corners all the way around. In this section, we also have an auto scroll, which will allow you, let's say we're working on this big section here, and we're following around and we get to the bottom down here. See how the plan moves as I take my mouse all the way down? So that's what that is for, auto scroll. If you have that turned off, it won't do it. So you have to actually move the image around. And the best way to move the image is when you zoom in. The zoom is with the wheel. You can also push the wheel down and grab the image and move it around, which is the most popular. You're probably going to be using that one most of the time. But the auto scroll is nice because if you're working on a large project, it'll move with you as you're going across the screen. We also have a pan tool where you can grab it, grab the image. Let me just finish this one. So you can click on this pan and grab it, move it around as well. Well, that's the 3 ways of drawing. Well, now I'm going to go ahead and start throwing material in these rooms. So basically what they're going to do is just follow their finish schedule, and it's going to tell them, what material goes where. So in the product section, this is where they can actually add new materials, or they can add materials from the database. And let's say that they've already set up, well, let's say that they haven't set up their database yet. Say we go into carpet, and there's some default settings for carpet. But let's just say that the one they want to use isn't in there. They can actually create one in the database. Go up to carpet, you just double click on carpet, and then what type of a layout is it? Is it rolled goods? Is it outdoor, or is it carpet tile? We'll just add a rolled goods. W2W means wall to wall.
Mm-hmm.
So what we want to do is just hit new SKU, and then it's a carpet roll, and then we can just add the name. Whatever you want to call it, and the style name can be whatever, and the color code can be whatever, color name and SKU number, whatever. Just follow what it is on the spec sheet. Then the color, of course, we can change this to whatever we want. Change it to gold. Hit OK, and then this products services database management section. This is actually kind of like the spec sheet. It's the item info, but it's kind of like a specification sheet for the product. And here's where you can create your, the sizes of your carpet. How do we want to measure by unit square foot or by square yards? Here you can type in any size of material, 12'6". A lot of them use 12'6". We also have some drop downs, 13'6". 15. You can just type in 10 feet, whatever size. The estimating width, like let's say that you're concerned about the edges. When they come into the warehouse, they could be damaged, so we can maybe knock off an inch and make it 12'5" or 12'4", an inch on each side. We can also change the roll length. So let's say we know that this particular product comes in, a full roll is 150 feet. So basically that's what we're going to set it up as. We can also change the maximum roll cut length. Let's say, for example, the access to the project is not really all that great, and they can't really get a 50-footer in there, so they're going to have to cut it in half. So we can actually figure it as 75-foot rolls. We also have a cut margin where, let's say the room is 12 feet long, and you always want to add a little bit extra for the installer to trim off. So the most popular cut margin is 3 inches, but you can make it whatever you want. You can make it 6 inches, a foot if you want. The maximum T-seams, this right here will actually, when you do your takeoff and then you hit estimate, it's only going to put a maximum of 2 cross seams in a fill piece, and I'll show you what that means here in a minute. And then your horizontal repeat, which will be your pattern match. So let's say, for example, it's an 18-inch pattern match, so it's going to be horizontal repeat and vertical repeat. So we put that there, 18 by 18. This horizontal drop and vertical drop, that's mainly for vinyl. And they'll know if they have either one of these two on their vinyls, and it's kind of like a repeat, but it's more of a kind of like a puzzle matching it up. But this is rarely used. He put that in there just in case, but it's rarely used. This is most popularly used here.
Right.
We can also add to that material. Let's say that we already have labor set up in our database. So carpet installation right here. Let's say we're going to use this one here, carpet labor. Hit OK, and now whenever we use this particular material, it's always going to have the cost of the labor to it. We can add all kinds of other materials too, like let's say, for example, we're going to put pad down. It's not a glue down. Let's just say we're going to put padding down. Let's say we're going to put this pad here. So hit OK, and now we have the carpet labor and the pad price right here. And we can also add freight and any other thing that we wanted to add to it, like glue, if it was a glue down, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basic how you add stuff to it. And we can also add it to the project afterwards. We don't actually have to add it here, but we can just hit save. And now you can see that it's right here in our database, so it's always going to be there. So then when we're doing this project, we can actually go and say add from database, go up to carpet, hit this, hit add, and it'll add it to our project.
Right.
So that's how you add from the database, and that's pretty much how you set up a project in your database. And then, of course, we can set it up on a per project basis as well. So we can just hit add new item and then view and modify, and this is that spec sheet that we were just working on. And let's say it's going to be a dowel tile, or tile, or let's say ceramic tile, whatever you want to call it, of course. Then our trade is tile. You can fill out the name and all that. The color, will make it green. And then, of course, the layout is going to be tile. And we want it square feet. And we have a drop down of quite a few different materials. But, of course, you can make these whatever you want. Let's say this is going to be a 6 by 16. Just put 6 by 16. The thickness doesn't really matter. It's not really going to affect your numbers at all. The grout size, you can put 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, whatever. Right here's where you can add your waste factor. Anything you want to put 10% if you want. We can also do an automatic calculation of 50% if they wanted to just use anything that's 50% or more. Like let's say you have a fill piece in your on one wall that's 3 inches by however long. They're going to actually take that and cut it in half and reuse half of it. So you can do it that way. The most popular though is the waste factor, which will give you a net area and then add 10% to that net area. Again, we can add material to this, labor, freight, transitions, anything we wanted to add to that. Mm-hmm. Over here is our pricing. So let's say, for example, the cost of this material was $2 a square foot, and we wanted to mark it up or set a profit margin. Some people use profit margin, and some people just use a markup. So, regardless of what they use, here's a drop-down box. They can use what we have as our default settings, or they can type in what they want. Say they wanted to mark it up 25%, which is only a 20% profit margin. Mm-hmm. Or let's say they wanted a 18% profit margin, which is a markup cost of 21.95%. So you just hit OK, and here's our sales price. So now when we go to calculate this, it's going to show us our sales price on our quotation. So I'm just going to hit OK, and now our material's in there. And you can also add that to the database. If you've already used it in your drawing, you can't. But if you've so now that I have this already here, I can actually add that to my database. But if you start using it and then you say, oh, well, I've been using that product a lot, after you've already used it, for some reason you can't add it. So yeah, if you want to just create materials here before you add them, you can always add them to the database. But this is how you create them project specific. Right. Basically what that means is you're not always using this material, but if you wanted to add it to the database, that's certainly your preference. Let's say you finish doing the takeoff and you've used these materials and you save that project, it's going to be saved to that specific project. Mm-hmm. So when you open it up back up, the material list that you've used is right here, and it'll appear here again. Right. So yeah, for example, now all we really have to do is just take our material that we're using and put it in the areas where it's going to receive carpet. And so now we have we have our rolled goods here, and we have our tile here, and This is what this finish schedule showed us where to put our materials. So then now we can hit estimate, and it's going to show us what we're going to get numbers for. We hit OK, and down here is a cut sheet of the rolled goods. So it gives us kind of like a seam layout. And you can hide all these numbers too by going to Takeoff and then View Option. And you can hide label and dimension. Go back to estimate. So kind of you can see your drawing a little bit easier. But we can also move these seams around. Let's say we want to start on that wall, or let's say we want to start on this wall. We can move those seams around. We can also switch the side, seam side. We can switch the layout. Let's say we want to go up and down instead of left to right. So we can quickly do that. And you see how we have a seam right here in front of that door. That's where the switch seam side would be perfect. You just hit that, and it switches them over to the other side. We can also do borders real easily. So let's say we want to do a border in that room. Just double click in the room. You can either double click in the room or right click and go to properties and then hit border, and then you can just add a border. So basically we can add up to 3 borders too. I'm just going to add 1 border, and here's where you can make the size whatever size you want. Let's say we want to make it 2 feet if we wanted to. Then we find the material that we want to use for that border. Go up to ceramic tile, hit apply, hit OK, and then it adds the border for you. We can also do insets. We have this takeout tool right here, which you can follow your inset that you have on your blueprint. Just follow it around underneath, and that actually will take the material out, so you can put new material in there. And let's do this in there. We can also change the direction pretty quickly. Let's say in this room they wanted to go at a diagonal. Just right click, go down to set layout direction. Click on that, okay, and it just quickly change it to a 45. And you can type in whatever direction you want it to be. You can just type it right here. Walls also. Well, before I jump into walls, we probably want to put a doorway in here because there's going to be a transition. Right here is a door tool. You can either use a door or just put a transition. But we can actually type in the size of the door, the height, the depth, what type of door it is. And then we can also add to that door, like we could add transitions to that doorway. I'm just going to put tubs tree, but you can call that whatever you want. Just hit OK. And then now we can place our doors, where we want to put them. And you see how it's facing the other way. You can just hit space and then hit shift to align it the way you want it to go. So space, shift, and then X will also change the style of door. And you can see that it's dropping that transition in those doorways for me. But let's say that you don't really want to use a door. You're just going to throw transitions in there. So we can actually go down to, we can find a transition that we want to use, and I just have one that's called transitions. We can just highlight the little wall that we want to use the transition on. Say, for example, let's say that this was a big opening. We can actually just highlight the wall and put the transition instead of adding a door. I'll show you what I mean by that. So when you're drawing your rooms, you want to make sure you tell them, if you don't want to use a door, just stop at the doorway, on each side of the doorway, so that it creates a segment, and then you can actually put the transition in that doorway. But if you don't want to stop, at that doorway, then you can just put a door. But this is the way you want to just put a transition. See how it only highlighted that little door? It's because I stopped on each side of it. When I was drawing, I stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to add it to the entire wall. It's just going to add it to that little section that I highlight. And you can get rid of those walls too. If you don't like to see those walls, you can just show wall section that gets rid of them. Let's say that you're drawing an area and then and it has a rounded wall. There's a couple ways you can do that. Let's say you're drawing and you come to an area where the wall's rounded right here. You can either stop on either side of that rounded wall, that curved wall, and then grab this arc and pull it down to match that the angle of that circle. Or you can actually, as you're drawing, you can actually hold down R for radius, and that will actually draw a circle as well for you. It's R using the radius is takes a little getting used to, but that's it. Just hold R down, and that will help you draw radius.
Mm-hmm.
These segment lines, these are good for people who do basketball courts or volleyball courts that have to paint lines on. They're good for visuals, but they're also good for adding stuff to your project later. Like, let's say, for example, we need to add a transition here. And when I did this room, I just did a whole square, so I didn't stop at that doorway. You can use the segment line to go in and then just, add a line to that. And then you can go back and add a transition to that line. So it's good for going back in after the fact if you miss something, and use a segment line to add a linear foot item to that.
Mm-hmm.
They're also good for, like I said, basketball courts and volleyball courts, or any kind of stuff like that needs painted on. You can actually just draw the segment lines on the court for them, so that the installer knows exactly where to put them, and you can put dimensions. Oh, this one has to be 5'4" out, and from here it needs to be 11'6" out. So this is good for people that need to paint lines on, and you can use these in any way you want. And we can also change the color and the thickness of those by right-clicking on it, go to Properties, and right here is the thickness, and then the colors. There's a ton of different colors you can change it to. Those are the segment lines. The count items are pretty good for like corners. Let's say you want to use a count item here. There's a couple of different ways you can do count items. I don't necessarily like this one, but there's a better way to do it. You can just create an item that says, let's say for example you're doing commercial vinyl, and they want to self-cove the commercial vinyl. Let's say they want to self-cove this room here. You just double-click in that room and go to self-coving, and then you hit 6 inches or 4 inches, whatever the self-cove size is. Hit apply, and you can see that it ran it up 6 inches. And then now on commercial vinyl, they always charge extra to do outside corners. So you want to make sure you create an outside corner to count each corners that you have. And that's pretty easy. You just go to Product and Add New Item, and then View, Modify. And then we'll just call it Outside Corners. And this is going to be labor. And then, of course, we want to come down here, unit name, you want to call it each. And we don't really need a waste factor on that. Pricing is for your labor, so you can set that up. It's like, let's say it's $25 a corner. You can just put that, 25. And if you want to mark it up 20% or whatever, hit OK. and then we go to our takeoff, and then now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and throw this in there, and what it's going to do is it's going to highlight all the corners, and it's going to ask me how do I want to assign it. I want to assign it on only the outside corners. So I just hit outside corners, hit OK, and now it gives me a count of all the outside corners. You can see right here it says outside corners 3.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way to do anything that has an each. We do have this item here, but I mean you could play around with it, but I wouldn't suggest using it. The way that I showed you here is the best way. Let's say you're doing some stairs, and they want to do them in stair treads, rubber stair treads or vinyl stair treads. They want to do the treads, the risers, and the stringers as well. The stringers are the ones on the side, the sides of the stairs. Sometimes you'll see those done with the material as well. Basically, you just right-click in the room to get rid of what's ever in there, and we go down here, floor material, and we want to just say select none, and then hit apply. So now we have a blank set of stairs, and I've created materials over here called stair treads, stair risers, and stair stringers, and the treads want to be done as an each, and the stringers want to be done as linear feet. So all I do is just drag the item over there, and it asks me how do I want to calculate those. I want to calculate it per each step. I hit OK, and it'll actually count each step for me. The risers, the same thing, each step. And then my stringers, they're going to ask me how do I want to apply this. And this can be applied a couple ways. Apply on step width, length for all steps. That means, let's say we're doing wood on stairs, and we want to put a wood nosing, a stair nose. If we wanted to do that, we would actually hit this one. But since we are doing the stringers, we want to put the stringers on both sides. I hit OK, now it's going to give me a linear feet. That's going to calculate how many linear feet I need for the stringers. That's how you do the stringers. The stairs are pretty easy if you're not doing stringers or risers. You just throw the material you want to put on there. That drops it on there for you. Trying to think what else. The walls, we could do walls pretty quick. I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'll do this section for walls. Just double click in the room, go to walls. Let's just say we're going to do all the walls. Let's click on walls. And right here's the wall height. I can change that to any height I want. The thickness. Let's say we're going to put more than one tile on that wall. So we hit design wall with layer. And then these are the layers that we're going to create. I'm going to actually increase it to 3. So what we can do is we can put a wainscot there of 4 feet. So these can be moved around, these layers. And then this one I'm going to just make it a foot. So we click in the certain layer, and then we go and we find the material we want to use. Click in the next layer, find the material. Hit apply, hit OK, and we can see the 3D by just clicking in that room and going up here to view 3D. And you can see that what it did was it took anywhere we had a doorway, it took the material out. And you can actually move this around, see all the walls with it. But anybody who does any walls, they really like this feature here because it can show the installer exactly how to install it, and it also shows the homeowner or architect or whoever you're working with, that you guys are professional. You're not just doing it by hand. Change the layout here. So down here is where you're going to see your actual layout of the material. Um, and you can actually manipulate the scenes from down here as well. Like, let me just draw a big room here real quick. Okay, so whatever you want to see, let's say we wanted to see the layout of this material, we just click in one of the rooms with that material and it'll show us down here. And we can also manipulate the layout from down here. Like, obviously if I cut this right here, then it looks like it could be moved over to here. So what I can do is just go up to Add Crossing and just cut it from here. I can actually cut it from down here, or I can actually click on this to find where that piece is, and it's showing me that piece is right there. So I can either put a crossing there, or just put one down here. It's easier for me to see it down here, so I'm just going to actually put one right here. So what just happened was it took it from here and it put it down here.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do that from this section here or up here. Like, let's say I want to just put a crossing here, I can just do that also. Here. It's not really changing the yardage at all, but and it's also, if you don't want those crossings, you can actually just grab them and throw them out. Sometimes that helps your yardage too, but you can actually see that you can play around with it to actually get your yardage down. Switch layout direction. Then we can check our roll cut. So now you can see here we could probably cut that. So I just go over and cut it. So it reduced it a little bit. Well, after you have all the materials where you want them to go, then what you'll want to do is estimate it. And that's when you're going to see your layout, your scene drawings. And then let's say that you wanted to convert it to a quotation or worksheet. Just click on worksheet and then make sure you hit import estimation, and it's going to actually show you all the materials you've used.
Right.
By room, by material trade, you know. And this can be exported to Excel, saved as an Excel sheet. We can also export this to quotation, and here is where you're going to see, you know, the description of the materials that we're using, the quantity, the unit of measure, the price, the sales, that's going to be the sales price, the tax, and then the amount, and that's going to give you a total down here. You can actually hide some of these and say the client doesn't want to show his client the actual price per unit. So he can come up here to basic info, item settings, and go to columns, and just go ahead and just, you know, let's say sales price right here. Just unclick it, okay, and then now it's gone from the actual quotation. So all they see is the quantity and the amount. And you can hide all of these if you want and just show them amount.
Right.
That's something to play around with. You can also sign it, you know, have them sign it on site even. You know, if you're out in the field, you can have them sign it. We also have instructions and stuff to put customer name. That's all in the item settings. Basic information, customer, job site, and so on. And also we can export to QuickBooks. And another thing that's cool is if you ever have any questions, feel free to, you know, throw an email my way, and I'll definitely be able to help you you kind of get up to speed. But if you also have questions, if you highlight the one of the icons, like right here, if you highlight add even T-seam, and you really don't know what that means, just hit F1,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll actually bring up a help file
Right.
that shows you quite a bit. It's actually a really nice help file system that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Their help files are great. Um, any of these, anything, switch layout direction, F1, and it all pops up.
Oh.
So that's all. That's a great feature. Even on the worksheet, print. If you don't know what print means. But uh, yeah, anything on here. If you just hit F1, it's going to give you an information sheet for you to read, and it's pretty thorough as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that's it on doing the takeoff. So then we can go ahead and print it, and you always want to make sure estimate button's on when you print because it's going to show you the seams. Just hit print, and this is something you can play around with. This is going to give you all the materials added up per layer, so you can tell per layer how much one floor is. So you can always add that.
Mm-hmm.
But since we only have one layer, it's not necessary. We can make sure we want to show the cut list and cut sheet, the roll cuts, which will be these, and then the cut sheet, which will give us, what the cuts they need to make are. We can have just the current view, so it's just going to show our layout. We can put on legend with diagram, so in our diagram it's going to actually show all of our materials, and I'll print that for you real quick. And then we can also have our 3D on.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just want to highlight one room, let's say only one room has the walls. Let me hide this. Just highlight the one room and then go to print, or highlight the rooms, that are all getting walls. So you can actually just say, let's say that this room, and then just hit Control. This room and this room all are having wall tile, or just this room and this room. So it's going to just give you a 3D view of those two.
Oh, okay.
But in this case, we only have this room, so we just want to highlight that one. So I'm just going to hit print, and then highlight 3D. And of course you can print your worksheet, your quotation, and all that other stuff with it. Hit OK. And I missed that part. I'll go back and show you how to fill that out. But basically this is your estimation summary.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to give you the item description,
Mm-hmm.
the usage of all the materials, the rolled cuts. Any rolled goods you have are going to be right here. The roll is a 12.6 by 157.5, and it's a 18 by 18 inch pattern match.
Mm-hmm.
This is the net square foot area of the rooms that you did the takeoff on. This is the perimeter. And these are the seam. This is the seam length, which this is really good and helpful for commercial vinyl because they always have to heat weld the seams, and they always want to know how many linear feet of seam weld they have. And then over here, of course, is the waste percentage that we've used. And on square foot material, we're going to set our own waste percentage. But on rolled goods, it just depends on the layout. So this could be anywhere from 5% to 30%, which really doesn't make any difference. You can actually just look at the layout and determine how to make it, lower that.
Right.
So that's your quantities, and then here's your cut sheets. The cut sheet is actually going to tell you right here what the name of the material is, the size of it, the rolls, how many rolls do we have, the pattern repeat, and if it's in square yards, square feet, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Our cut margin is 3% or repeat. And then these are the cuts for the installers. So they know when they get to the job site, they know right away they need to make up 22.9, 22.9, 22.9, and so on. These are the cuts they need to make. And they can actually see these cuts down here. And then they'll be able to see the layout, where those cuts actually go. And they're actually numbered. So C1, C2, C3, C4. If you look back here, you can actually see where they go, C1, C2, C3, C4. So this is what really is very helpful for the people that don't really use software, because they don't have the opportunity to have this generated for them. they don't even have a diagram like this, which is nice also.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can just print it to PDF if you wanted to save it in your file somewhere that way,
Mm-hmm.
or email it out to your client, or just go ahead and print it. Let me show you on the job information. Right here is where, when we went to go print it, let me just show you real quick. Right here, customer name and job site. That's this section, job info. So right here, you can type in the business name. Mm-hmm. All their information here, and you can actually save it. So, for example, let's say we're doing this, we're doing projects for this particular company quite a bit. So I actually saved his information. So I'm just going to go ahead and reload it. So I hit load, and then I just click on one of my vendors or whoever, right. And that information is already loaded in. Then we can go to the job site and type in, whatever project this is, and address and all that, and then you can put job information. And then when we go to print this, then it should all be in there. So yeah, the Smith House, Jim Smith, job info, takeoffs per plans, and who it's for. Right. So that's basically that part. I could honestly sit here. Oh, well, here's another one we could go through real quick. Divide floor. Let's say, for example, at this doorway they wanted to run a walkway to this doorway. So we have carpet here, and they wanted to put like a hardwood walkway. So we go to divide floor, and we can actually just come up and just create a walkway to that door. And basically what that allows us to do when we divide the floors, it actually splits it up, divides it from this other material, so we can actually put another material in there. We just put a wood material in there. So there we go. We actually just put wood in there now. So divide floor allows us to cut that in half. Let's say we can put another material up here and another material down here. And that's pretty helpful to use to at least this internal wall. It means like if we're doing a takeoff and we come to a wall that just kind of sticks out about 6 feet from this wall, we can just go right through it, continue doing our takeoff, and then come back in and hit that and add that internal wall. So there's the internal wall. And that's good if we wanted to add like code base or whatever to our project. Like let's say we're adding this base. We can highlight the whole room, we'll add it everywhere, or we can just highlight a certain wall and add it to that wall. And I guess that's about, the last big project I did was, I think it was a 10-floor hospital, and each floor was huge. Had 50 or 60 beds in the hospital, so it can handle anything that you throw at it. The bigger they are, the more specific you want to do it, how you want to add it. So let's say, for example, you're doing a hospital and it has 5 floors, and each floor is really large. When you're doing your takeoff, usually you always have this estimate button, auto re-estimate on. If you're doing a project that large, every time you add a new material, it's going to re-estimate. So it's taking pieces from here to there and all over. So if you're doing a project that large, you want to make sure you keep this section off, because then towards the end, whenever you get all your materials on all your floors where they need to go, then you hit auto re-estimate, and it's going to re-estimate the entire project for you, which could take some time because it's taking materials from over here on this section over to that section. And you can also estimate per layer. So, I mean, I don't think most people are going to do that if it's one, if it's one large project. But you have the option. You can actually estimate per layer. So you can just do a takeoff on this layer here, and then go to the next layer here, and which would be the next floor, and then you can actually do another takeoff on that.
Right.
So it's like let's say you had 5 floors, it would be like having 5 different projects. So yeah, and then I mean it does. You can import any kind of project. It'll do hospitals, schools. Even if you have this commercial version, you can do a house with it. Just a regular house or multifamily. It's great for multifamily also, for the reason of just kind of like what I explained, where you can do it per level, per layer, and you can rename these. You can call this first floor, and then so on, second floor, third floor. It can be done both ways. It can be done as one project, estimate all layers, or it can be done as individual projects. Like first floor is different from the second floor, so it can be added up per layer or all layers together. And when I go to take it off, when I go to print, right here is where it says all layers, material usage added up. So what it's going to show you is first floor. It's going to give you material for that first floor only.
Oh, okay.
And then the next one, it'll say second floor. And it'll give you, so it's going to break it down per floor.
Right.
Or you can print it without that. And it will just give you a total project totals. This one is still showing that because we don't have another floor, but if we had more floors, you would see what I'm talking about. It would actually break it up per floor or show us the totals for everything. So it can be done both ways, as per project or as per floor or one whole project. Well, this is there's several different uses for this. This is you can actually, here's going to show us how we did the takeoff. It's going to show per room, which that could be an advantage or disadvantage, whatever. He has the option to do that. This here will show you the estimate of the materials that we did, and we can see that right here instead of going to our estimate or going to our worksheet or printing it out. We can just hit this calculator here, and it'll actually show us all the materials and the usage for everything right there. This one here is the tile editor, and basically we have about 30 or 40 default settings of tile patterns. And let's say, for example, they wanted a basket weave or brick weave right here in this room here. What it's going to do is, if you wanted to go ahead and throw that in there, it's going to ask you what size material did you want to use for that pattern. So we can actually change the pattern itself right here. We can go here and here. So we just hit OK, and now it'll actually throw it in there. So these are just the patterns that we have, but we can also create our own. So if you just click on that right there and then go up to Pattern Editor, and then we just hit New, right here is where we're going to start setting up our pattern. We can actually go here and we're going to use a 6x6, then we just add pattern, and then we're going to use a 12x12, let's say. Add pattern, hit OK, and then here's how we create our pattern, just by hitting the 6x6 and then grab the 12x12, and that's going to be our pattern.
Oh, okay.
Right here. So we can create our own pattern there, and then we just hit save and we name it. Let's just say Raj pattern. Hit OK, and now we can go back over here and we should be able to find it. Yeah, right here. Garage pattern. We can drop that in, throughout the project. So that's what that's all about. That's the pattern, tile patterns. This is the wood patterns. Same exact thing with wood. We can do the same we just did with tile as we did with wood. These are like room templates. Like let's say we have a shower that we're using here. We can actually just put that shower there,
Oh.
which that could or could not be the size of the shower. This tub usually is 5 feet, so but he has some stuff in there to use if you wanted to use that. Not sure even how wide this tub is. Yeah, it's a little larger than normal, but you can use them if you want. It's just an option. That's basically all that is. And if you wanted to go back to the room, to see your projects or your materials that you're using on your project, just hit product service right here. And of course the calculation of the materials right here. But that's what that's all about. Yeah, 3D
Yep.
of the entire project.
Yeah.
Yes, you can do that also. It doesn't really, I mean, it's not really necessary, I guess, but unless you have walls that you put material on. But yeah, I guess it's kind of cool to look down and see the see the walls. And you can print this as well. If you ever get stuck on something, just send me an email, and I'll be more than happy to help you if I can. If you ever get in a jam where you don't know what something does or you can't find the answer, just certainly send me an email and I'll be able to help you.